Hey guys, musicninjamat here. Very special video today as we say happy 80th to Batman. I am of course going to be talking about Detective Comics 1000. And just look how gorgeous this fold-out cover is, with all of Batman's villains on there. So talking about this book, of course, there will be spoilers throughout, and I'll put timestamps down below for everything I'm going to be speaking about. So this book is made up of a lot of short stories by different writers and artists. Story number 1 is written by Scott Snyder, with Greg Capullo on pencils. So the plot for this is basically it's Batman's longest case, where one clue has led to another. It's made him travel around the whole world, and he gets led back to Gotham, and he stumbles across this group of detectives, which has Martian Manhunter, Detective Chimp, it's got Hawkman, Hawkgirl, etc. And the whole thing was a test. It was the idea that this group, they solve all the unsolvable mysteries throughout history, and Batman starts looking through some of the books that they have, filled with different cases, and Batman seems quite shocked by this. So the art in this book is basic, it's nice, but in most places it's also very dark throughout, seeing a lot of Batman just going through. I like the writing in this because it's actually quite interesting and Sherlock-esque, seeing Batman break down all the different clues and solve each mystery. And it's a book that emphasises Batman's detective skills, because we're reading Detective Comics, and you'll see this pop up a few times throughout the book. So story number 2, written by just one of the best guys ever, Kevin Smith, with Jim Lee on art, and Jim Lee as well, an absolute legend when it comes to Batman art. We see Bruce in his Matches Malone disguise, and he's approached a supervillain weapons collector and dealer. And as they're talking, we see flashes of different Batman battles. And Batman actually buys the gun that killed his parents. And Alfred, of course, a bit shocked by this, but what Bruce does is he melts the gun down into a plate that he puts in his Batman suit as protection. So the art has some really good detail, really great colours in it, and it's really fun seeing all the different battles. So there's an example of some of the art for you. So with the writing, I really like Bruce when he is being Matches, because of how he plays everything off, how he keeps his cool, how he's actually a pretty good actor. And the Seller, he's actually a character I would like to see more of, because he's this supervillain collector, but he's actually quite a chilled persona as well. There's a moment that makes me laugh as well, where Alfred's wrapping his head around Bruce buying the gun, and he says, you know, I'd never question the giant penny. I almost put my back out carrying that dinosaur into the cave, but I just love it because Bruce says that gun broke my heart and now it's going to protect it. And he says that feels like justice to him. Story number 3 is written by Paul Dini, with pencils by Dustin Nguyen. So this story is interesting because it's actually a documentary on a famous henchman called Brody. And the idea is he's the worst henchman in history. We see all the different supervillains who either can't remember him or are calling him an idiot. And we get to see all the different times villains' plans have failed because of Brody. We find out at the end that actually Brody is an identity shared by the Bat family, so they could go undercover and ruin villains' plans. But they said it's about time they retired the identity because now there's this documentary on it. And then we just see Damian say, not until I've used it, and he's there dressed in the disguise, and Batgirl just says, he definitely is your son, Bruce. With the art, it is cartoonish and a bit rough around the edges, but very charming. And there's a point in here, I don't know how well you'll be able to see it, but there's some funny voting signs. Like you've got Harley for Vice, Joker for President, and the actual voting building just says voting place on it. I found the writing very fun, very witty, very Batman the Animated Series, of course. And I thought the book just had really good humour. The villains' reactions when they're telling their stories about Brody are just priceless. So with story number 4, you've got Warren Ellis writing it and Becky Cloonan on art. So Batman is hunting down this group that tried to take over a hospital, and he ends up fighting them on the waterfront. And Batman has this building down the waterfront actually actually rigged with devices, so he's able to take each guy out because he's researched them, he knows all their files. He takes them all out until it comes down to him and the leader's saying, I've got a bomb of my own and it will kill the city, and Batman is able to sort of talk him down and stop their plan. So I really like the art for this one because it's actually incredibly gritty and matches the tone very well. This story just shows how smart Batman is within the writing, because the bad guys think they're escaping, but actually they're playing right into Batman's plan. There's a really good line in there where Batman's saying, I'm pretty sure they've taken superhuman enhancement drugs and they've got this bit of armor, they're armed with these weapons, and he just says, I'm delighted. It means I don't have to be gentle. And I love seeing how Batman fights. It's so tactical. He's hitting pressure points because he says, super strength or not, if you can't use your muscles, I stop you. Like, this book's got a much darker tone, and I love at one point Batman saying fist fights and guns are for idiots, basically. And of course that's what Batman would think. And with Batman stopping their leader, it's amazing that he stops him with words, because Batman just says, okay, you want to kill me, kill the city, and Batman says, I'm already dead. All I do is haunt the living. And Batman says, do you want the same for yourself? And the leader just breaks down into tears and says no, and he hands over the trigger to the bomb to Batman. So story number 5, we've got Denny O'Neil as the writer and Steve Epting on art. So in this story we see Leslie Tompkins and Batman, and they're talking about his parents' death in Crime Alley on the anniversary of their death. And we see this group of kids, they've found a gun and some Halloween masks, and they're out and about, and they actually approach Batman and Leslie. And Batman naturally goes in, starts beating them all up, and Leslie stops him. And he says, what, you feel sorry for them? And she's like, no, I feel sorry for you. The art is just extremely beautiful and very realistic as well. The writing in this I really liked, because you have Leslie basically saying to Bruce, you could have led a life full of charity and helping people and being a good person, and she says instead you're a monster. She said all you bring is cruelty to people. She points out he's just a man that uses fear, and I really think these words were very hard hitting because it's a totally different way to view Batman. The last line of I feel sorry for you as well, just very hard hitting. So story number 6, you've got Christopher Priest writing it and Neil Adams on art. So we get to see Bruce back in the days when he's training, and we see a kid actually take Bruce's wallet. We do a time jump and someone has been attacked and killed, and they have a Wayne card left on their chest, but an older one from Thomas Wayne. Batman does his usual detective work and realizes Ra's al Ghul is involved and goes to interrogate him. So Bruce actually finds the members of the League that were involved in this boy's death, and they said, well, he was inspired by Bruce Wayne, and it all started with a wallet. So it all links back in to the start, and it's the idea that this boy and some others have been inspired to leave the League altogether, and Batman basically says, well, let it be known that I will help anyone that wants to leave. The art in this one, to me, it's very colourful, it's got some nice detail, and it really stands out as unique, to be honest with you. So this story again shows more of his detective skills. I actually really do like the structure of it as well, with the little bit at the start, but when I first read it, it actually confused me a little bit. And with Bruce inspiring people, I can only assume that after they took his wallet, they researched the Wayne family. Story number 7, written by Brian Michael Bendis, with Alex Maleev on art and colours. So we see this is set in the future. We see a much older Penguin talking to a much older Bruce, and he says, I've always known who Batman was. So he tells the story of how the villains would always meet up and say, how do we beat Batman? And they always came down to the same thing of, well, let's figure out who he is. Penguin figured it out. He figured out that Batman was Bruce Wayne, and he was planning an attack on Wayne Manor. You know, all of the most important people in Gotham were going to be there. He could kill them, he could kill Batman, but then he realised, what happens if I fail? If I launch this attack and I fail, I'll kill Bruce Wayne, but not Batman. And Batman without Bruce Wayne has no humanity, and he will come and he will kill us all. So Penguin stops himself, and he says, and that's why I win. And it's the idea that Penguin's saying, so I'm smarter than you as well, because I always knew. And Bruce just sort of smiles and goes, oh, Penguin, I knew that you knew the whole time as well. And then he just uses like a taser blast to stun Penguin. The art as well in this is gorgeous. I love the colour palette used, and I love the character character designs. With this story, I love how Penguin's written because he's a lot more menacing and he's intelligent, and the villains ask the right questions because they always go, well, who's rich enough to be Batman? The story feels very intense and well built up, and having Bruce at the end being so calm and saying, I knew all of this, it's a really good payoff. So story number 8 is written by Geoff Johns with Kelly Jones on art. So with this story, it's set in the future, it's a much more quiet Gotham, and we see Batman, Catwoman, Damian, Echo, their little dog Ace, I think, and they're just this proper little family of crime fighters, and they have a case. They have found 12 dead, all wearing different holiday sweaters. They go through the scene and realise it was the son of the Joker that did it, because of course this is set in the future, but he's also amongst the dead. We find out that the Joker has died, the original, and the Joker's son leaves a letter basically saying he wanted to die this way because without family, what are we? We see that Batman says, well, it's over, we've finally done enough, it's time to focus on family, and he breaks the bat signal, and as he breaks it and as the scene clears, we see Batman blowing out birthday candles and making a birthday wish, and it is our present day Bruce Wayne. The art in this is very unique, and I really like the character designs, especially the Joker's son, because that is just a very haunting image. With the writing, they make cool references to some of Batman's history, like referencing the holiday killer from The Long Halloween, and overall it's just a beautiful story, because the idea is Batman's wish is for that future, is for it to all be over, for him to have a family. Just a very well done story. Story number 9 is by James Tynion IV, and you have Alvaro Martinez-Bueno on pencils. So Batman and Alfred are discussing Robin, and Alfred says, Bruce, he could be better than you ever were. He could be a hero brought up in the light. But Batman is a bit concerned about the idea that more and more will be inspired and start fighting his war. Robin ends up appearing, dropping down from the ceiling, and he says to Bruce that you are showing people a new way to fight back. So all we can do is show them the right way to do that, and Batman agrees with him. So the art in this, it's very detailed and it has a really nice warm feeling to it. So this story, it's fun to see a story that's more to do with Robin. I love when Robin drops down, he drops down from the ceiling and they're both taken by surprise, and it shows that Robin is actually very skilled. The overall tone of the story is just lighter, it's showing that Robin brings light into Batman's life. Story number 10 is written by Tom King with Tony S. Daniel and Joel Jones on art. So the Bat family has all met up and they're chatting away and they're waiting for Bruce to turn up, and we see flashes of Bruce at his parents' grave. So none of the Bat family know why they're there, they're just discussing, has somebody passed away or is one of us in trouble? Batman arrives and it turns out what he wanted was a photo of the entire Bat family, and we even get this amazing double page spread of all the family and Batman's there saying cheese. We get this beautiful ending of Batman placing the photo on his parents' grave, and Dick explains that Batman's biggest mystery that he's been trying to figure out all this time is just to find truth, which he has, and Batman's there and he smiles at the grave. The art's solid, it's realistic yet simple but in a good way, and yeah, the double page of all the family is just a really nice image. With the writing, I really like the banter and the jokes between the Bat family. It all feels very natural and realistic, the way they speak to each other. It's how a group like this really would be. For example, one of them goes, well, the only way you leave this family is if you die. And they go, oh, well, everyone's died here. And when they're waiting for Batman, someone says, well, why do we wait for him and not question anything? And they're like, because he's Batman and none of us are. And then Dick Grayson's like, I was Batman. And then Batgirl's like, I can't believe I have to put up with that. I can't believe I used to date you. And there's a fun scene of Damian as well. And as he goes through everyone, he's like, well, Dick, you are just the worst detective out of all of us. Even the dog is better than you. And then Dick Grayson's like, oh, we should hang out more, Damian. And Damian's like, yeah, I agree. We then just get to see a few pieces of different art like this. Just different interpretations by different artists. So the final story is written by Peter J. Tomasi with Doug Mankey on pencils. We see Batman just battling all his different foes. The focus of this story is on the narrator, who's saying Batman's actually a monster. Like, he never wants to look at the villain's side of things. And we're seeing some of Batman's history, so his fights with Bane and with the Court of Owls, stuff like that. And the narrator says, I agree, sometimes just brutal force is needed to deal with a problem. The narrator criticises Batman for having a family, for bringing people up to be similar to him. And the reveal at the end is the person narrating is the Arkham Knight, who says he'll bring justice to Batman. The art in this story to me is some of the best. It's highly cinematic, it's realistic, there's so much detail in it. With the writing of this, the idea of seeing Batman in this different light is very interesting, I think. He's seen as reckless, he's dangerous, he's selfish, he's cruel. And it shows this idea that none of us are actually safe from the Batman. I'm wondering if this Arkham Knight is Jason Todd or if it's somebody new. And this basically sets up the next story arc for Detective Comics. Overall, it was the Warren Ellis story, Denny O'Neil story, Geoff Johns story, and Kevin Smith story. They were the four that really stood out, and I can't really pick a favourite out of the four of those. And to be honest, there weren't really any stories I didn't like. We got to see lots of different sides of Batman, different aspects of his life. And I like there's the mix of tones and ideas from all these different creative teams. I just really enjoyed it, and I thought it was an absolutely solid book throughout. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, as it really helps the channel out. Check out the links in the description down below. Check out the whole channel, especially the playlists, and I will see all of you in the next one.